Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy, of course, an important word today, verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett. And I'm coming at you with the Midnighter, episode number 23. Still going strong. It's amazing we're still here tonight. It's a little somber tonight on the Midnighter. Of course, director Richard Donner passed away today at 91 years of age. I think for all of us, Richard Donner was somebody who made movies that we saw throughout our lives. Of course, the first time I really knew who he was because of The Twilight Zone. Of course, the Twilight Zone episode, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, with Mr. William Shatner. For obvious reasons, that was one of my favorite episodes of TV growing up. And I was very much a behind-the-scenes guy. I mean, I love learning about the people that made the things that I loved. And Richard Donner directed that episode. Actually, he directed a number of Twilight Zone episodes. If memory serves, he directed 5. Hang on, let me check on that. I don't know why I'm sorry I was late coming on today because it wasn't letting me on. YouTube would not let me on, which was frustrating. So, yes. He did direct, indeed, 6. I was wrong. 6 episodes of The Twilight Zone. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, From Agnes with Love, Sounds and Silences, The Jeopardy Room, The Brain Center at Whipple's, and Come Wander With Me. I think of all those, I have to say that Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is probably the most classic episode of The Twilight Zone. It's not my favorite episode of The Twilight Zone, but it's I think one of the best episodes of The Twilight Zone. Of course, I love it. And look who paid tribute to Richard Donner today in The Hollywood Reporter. This was published tonight at 6:35 p.m. This is, of course, the man himself looking out the window of the plane. This is by Ryan Parker. The legendary Superman and Lethal Weapon director was mourned in and around Hollywood for his massive contributions to cinema. Again, this is by Ryan Parker. It came as a bit of shock to some to learn that Richard Donner directed arguably the most well-known Twilight Zone episode of all time, which just so happened to star William Shatner. Donner died on Monday at the age of 91. The legendary Superman and Lethal Weapon director was mourned in and around Hollywood for his massive contributions to cinema. A Twitter user pointed out that it was actually Donner who was behind the camera for Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, or There's Something on the Wing episode of The Twilight Zone. Shatner saw the Twitter note and responded, "I'm sorry to learn of his passing. He was a wonderful director. I don't really have many memories of the shoot. It was chaotic. It was supposed to be a 4-day shoot, and they cut it in half. They kept us there all night on the second day to finish it. We were all sleep deprived." Nightmare at 20,000 Feet originally aired on October 11th, 1963. Starring Shatner as Robert Wilson, who is terrorized by a gremlin on the wing of his flight. Or is he just crazy? The story is one of the most popular of the classic anthology series, and several TV shows and films have paid homage to this moment. One of the most beloved was on Third Rock from the Sun, when Shatner guest starred and says there was something on the wing of his flight. John Lithgow's Dick Solomon responds that the same thing happened to him. A joke on the fact that Lithgow played the similar character, in the 1983 Twilight Zone, the movie. And William Shatner said, "I'm sorry to learn of his passing. He was a wonderful director." There's his tweet right there. And then, of course, my friend Scott Mantz, who's actually been on this show, says among the many masterworks directed by Richard Donner, the classic Twilight Zone episode Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, starring William Shatner. I actually have an action figure of that gremlin. So it's pretty neat that William Shatner paid tribute to Richard Donner. I think, for me personally, I was lucky to work on Free Willy. That was a movie that was produced by Lauren Schuler Donner, Jenny Lou Tugend, and Penelope Foster is someone else that was worked on that film, and it was a Donner Company movie. And I spent a lot of time. As people know, I worked on the Warner Brothers lot for a couple of years. And then after I left feature production, I kind of went off on my own. I worked at Silver Pictures for a while. And then after Silver Pictures, I worked on Free Willy. And Dick Donner was the executive producer of Free Willy. So when I worked on Free Willy, I was the quote-unquote producer's assistant during pre-production. And I did a lot of interesting things. Like one day I had to go paint they were doing a camera test in a swimming pool. So I had to go paint this, I don't know, it was made out of, it was not lucite, but it was this black killer whale, and it was only one color, and I had to paint it white, the part of it to make it look like a killer whale. And then I had to go to this swimming pool that was on the Warner Ranch that was just kind of down the street from the main lot and do camera tests for Free Willy. I mean, that was one of the things that I got to do. But as a result of that, there was a production office on the Warner Brothers lot, and then I was always in and out of Dick Donner's office. I probably talked to him, I don't know, 30 times because I had to go to his office and bring paperwork and stuff like that. And he was actually just an incredible guy. I mean, he had a big loud voice, and he was kid, what's up? And he was an incredible guy. And, I was always asking him about Lady Hawk, and I never talked to him about the Goonies because I don't like the Goonies. But a movie that I loved of his that I think is on HBO Max now that I think everybody should watch, it might very well be his best film. A movie called Inside Moves. I would check it out. But he was very nice to me, and because it was sort of my job to liaison or be the liaison between the production office and his office. So I was always dropping off paperwork to him, and there was a building that was Richard Donner's office was here, and Joel Silver's office was here, and there's like executive offices here, and there was a little courtyard. So I had worked for Silver Pictures, and Richard Donner was here, so it was kind of like old home week for me when I was working there. So I knew a lot of people there, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, back in the day, I was a kid. I mean, we're talking, this is like what, 91 or something, 91, 92. I don't remember exactly, but I was on the lot from 89 to 92, and I did a lot of things. But he was just a great guy, and he was happy to talk about anything you wanted to talk about. And what's really interesting about Richard Donner is I always thought of him as a journeyman director. I never thought of him as as the kind of talent like Stanley Kubrick or something, because he really wasn't a writer director. He was really a director for hire, and he really cut his teeth. If you look at his television credits, it wasn't just Twilight Zone that he worked on. I mean, you go back into the 60s, he worked on Wanted Dead or Alive, he worked on Route 66, he worked on The Rifleman, the Gene Roddenberry series, Have Gun Will Travel, that Roddenberry wrote 24 episodes of. His first movie he directed was a movie called X-15, about the X-15. He also worked on The Lieutenant, which is another show that Gene Roddenberry of Star Trek fame worked on. But he directed Man from U.N.C.L.E. He directed Perry Mason. He directed Gilligan's Island. He directed Get Smart. He directed The Fugitive, Wild Wild West. The funniest thing I think that he directed was, I don't know if anybody remembers the Banana Splits, but on the Banana Splits, they used to have a show called Danger Island, and he directed episodes of that. Uh-oh, Chongo, it's Danger Island next. So he really had an incredible Ironside, The Bold Ones, Cannon, The Streets of San Francisco. I mean, Kojak. He really had an incredible TV directing career. A lot of the time now it goes the other way. Directors have a great feature career and then they go in directing television. And then, of course, Donner had directed movies, but not any really big hits. I mean, I think his big breakthrough movie was, of course, The Omen. It's all for you, Damien. And it was, the 1-2 punch. The Omen came out in 1976. And then, of course, we all remember Superman the movie that came out in 1978. And I think that was the movie. Again, you know, Richard Donner to me was the guy that directed William Shatner Nightmare 20,000 Feet, but it was really I think seeing Superman was overwhelming for me. And I think for anybody who was there when it came out, obviously I grew up a comic book fan. By this time I was collecting Mego action figures of the DC and Marvel characters, and seeing Superman the movie was, you know, it was unbelievable. And it was just overwhelming. And I mean, I can't tell you what it was like to sit in that theater. From the opening credits to John Williams' music, coming on the heels of Superman came out on the heels of Star Wars. So Star Wars came out in 77, Superman came out in 78, and I think it was the 1-2 punch of those films that really solidified my desire to want to get into filmmaking. But it was an incredible experience sitting in that theater. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to tell you. I've talked a lot about this on the show, but starting in about 1975 with Jaws, and then 76 with Logan's Run, and Star Wars in 77, Superman in 78, and then of course everything from Dawn of the Dead to Alien to Moonraker in 79. There was just it was the beginning of geek culture. I think Star Wars was a flashpoint. But Superman, because Superman, obviously, I grew up watching the George Reeves Superman series from the 50s that I really, really liked. And then seeing Superman the movie, this epic take on the character that you'd been reading in comic books and seen on TV. And if you'd watched Kirk Allen and seen the serial from the 40s, I mean, you knew who Superman was, but to see it writ large on the big screen that way was truly overwhelming. And it was something that I don't think anybody expected. And you know, Richard Donner had he was definitely a populist filmmaker. I mean, he really knew how to make movies, but I don't think necessarily there was a lot of profundity in his work, but he was just a great entertainer. And I thought that most of the time when you went and saw a Richard Donner film, even the movies that weren't maybe the best movies in the world, they were still eminently watchable. I really loved Richard Donner's work. I do think Inside Moves is probably, that movie knocked me out when I saw it in the theater. It's really interesting though. I mean, you think about things like he made Scrooged, of course, which is a movie that I've liked better and better as I got older. Lady Hawk, of course. I mean, who can forget Michelle Pfeiffer when they finally are reunited and she says Rutger Hauer's character's name, Navarre. It's amazing. Of course, Lethal Weapon, the 4 Lethal Weapon movies. And I vaguely worked on Lethal Weapon 3 when I was working at Warner Brothers. And also today in Deadline, they had this little Richard Donner's career in movies. They had a pictorial gallery that I thought was really kind of neat. So there's Donner at work. Let's view all of these, shall we? Of course, there was Superman. You'll Believe a Man Can Fly. Here's a picture of his first film. Dave McLean and Charles Bronson. He worked with Charles Bronson more than once. This is X-15 from 1961. Then, of course, Salt and Pepper from 68. Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford. Amen. Wow. And then, of course, Twinkie, a.k.a. Lola, Charles Bronson again, and Susan George. Susan George, who was also later was on in what am I drawing? Why am I drawing a blank on that movie with Dustin Hoffman? You know, what's it called? Damn it! Why am I drawing a blank on it? Sam Peckinpah. I'll figure it out when I get past this. Then of course The Omen, David Warner and Gregory Peck. Gotta love that. And David Warner, remember his beheading in The Omen? That was cool. Inside Moves with John Savage and David Morse. He made this, of course, after he made Superman, but it's a wonderful movie. It's very, very unexpected from him. Then, of course, The Toy with Jackie Gleason and Richard Pryor. Who can forget that? And then, of course, Superman, Lady Hawk with Rutger Hauer, Matthew Broderick, and John Wood, who was great. John Wood was in Lady Hawk after he was in War Games in '83. What a great group. Then the Goonies in '85, not my favorite, but what a cast! Short Round and Samwise Gamgee and Thanos. What a cast! Then of course the Lethal Weapon movies and Radio Flyer. This is I remember reading the screenplay and I was knocked out by the screenplay. I really loved it. And I didn't think the movie was as good as the screenplay, but I really love this movie. Elijah Wood, again, working with all the hobbits. Joseph Mazzello, Lorraine Bracco. This is a terrific film. If you haven't seen Radio Flyer, I strongly recommend seeking it out. Scrooged, of course. Tom Waits. Lethal Weapon 2. Lethal Weapon 4. When they brought back... Well, they brought back Rene Russo, and they brought back Leo Getz, Joe Pesci, and they brought in Jet Li and, of course, Chris Rock. So I think one of the interesting things about a guy like Richard Donner is he made comfort movies. He made those delicious movies that were always entertaining. You know, he made Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson. And that movie seems to have been getting more timely as the years tick by. Great stuff. And and of course, my love for the word verisimilitude, one of my favorite words, I got it from Richard Donner. I mean, he talked about, I remember in the behind the scenes for Superman, he talked about creating verisimilitude. You'll believe a man can fly. That literally was the underlying principle of Superman the movie. You know, that's what it was all about. And that's why I love that idea so much, and I love that that's what he was striving for. I do think that Superman, I think it's a wonderful movie, and to me it's the comic book movie of all comic book movies. It's the granddaddy of them all, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's a great clip with Kevin Feige and Jeff Johns on stage, and Kevin Feige is explaining, because they both worked for Richard Donner. As a matter of fact, Jeff Johns worked on the documentary, the DVD documentary for Superman the movie. I think Kevin Feige probably did too. But I mean, it was the granddaddy of all of these movies. Mike Alito, our friend Mike Alito. Mikey, I still owe you your To Live and Die in L.A. Blu-ray. Don't think I've forgotten. I have not. I'll get that out to you this week. Mike Alito says, I was happy to see Mr. Feige use your favorite word in his tribute to Mr. Donner. Verisimilitude. The Lethal Weapon series brought me much joy. Yeah, you know, I remember, like, Lethal Weapon 1, Shane Black obviously wrote that film. It was, I think, his breakthrough script. Good year for Shane Black writing Lethal Weapon and appearing in Predator. Really, I love Lethal Weapon, but it was pretty hardcore. I mean, it begins with a woman jumping to her death, and then you've got Martin Riggs, played by Mel Gibson, wanting to swallow a bullet because his wife was dead. And you had that great jazzy score. The score, I mean, it was terrific. There was something about Lethal Weapon. It brought an air of, I mean, obviously the 80s were the era of the buddy cop movie, or the mismatched partners, whether it was 48 Hours, whether it was Beverly Hills Cop, whether it was Midnight Run. But Lethal Weapon took that formula and really made it a little bit more hard-hitting. And then, of course, in the second movie, in Lethal Weapon 2, over the Warner Brothers logo, it begins with the Looney Tunes theme. You know, that version of the Warner Brothers music. And, of course, it opens with Mel Gibson pounding on the top of the car, and you knew you were off to the races in that film. So I think, you know, I never thought of Richard Donner as somebody who was, maybe his movies were not, they weren't Bergman-esque meditations on life. You know, they were a good popcorn munching time at the movies. And although Inside Moves is a really heartfelt, emotional film, and it was a lot more introspective than his normal work. And you know, his last movie was unfortunately in 2006. It was 16 Blocks with Bruce Willis. That was the last thing that he made, unfortunately. But I mean, even that, he was in his late 70s when he made it. He had a great life. You know, he left behind a huge, enormous body of work, and he's so well liked. And whether you liked Scrooge, whether you like the Goonies, whether you like the Lethal Weapon movies, whether you like Lady Hawk, whether you like Superman, whether you like The Omen, or any of his lesser known films, I mean, he has a great, incredible legacy, and we were lucky to have his films. And literally, I was watching his films, for the better part of from The Omen, which I didn't get to see in the theater, even though I begged and pleaded they wouldn't take me. Little did they know the kind of books I was reading. They should have taken me, but they didn't. Nick Markin sends in a super chat and says, Rob, I just saw Jaws in a movie theater for the first time last night. It was amazing. Ooh, Jaws is great in a movie theater. One thing I noticed was all the grain in the picture. It was interesting, but a great experience. Well, Nick, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of grain, especially night. People aren't used to that anymore because you don't really see it. But yeah, that's just a function of the speed of the film and how they shot and the lights and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it gives it an extra texture. Like when they go and look, man, the scene where Matt Hooper goes down and Ben Garner's boat. I mean, come on, that scene still makes me jump even now. Love it. Twin Flicks are here. Donner's career is very prolific. Very, very few directors can direct all genres, from comedy, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, action, drama, and make it work. Only other modern director I can think of is Spielberg. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that comes from his time in television. Richard Donner was a consummate storyteller. And I think that's what his time in TV really allowed him to. He learned how to tell a story, and it didn't matter what genre it was. Donner could do it. Donner could work in all genres. And I think that was really one of his great strengths. It was great to see him, jump from, I mean, the Goonies to what did he do after to Lethal Weapon? That shows some range. So Nick Markin says, Rob, I know you love Superman 2. It's my favorite Donner film. I know you prefer the Richard Lester cut, but in honor of Donner, can you talk about Superman 2 and your thoughts on it? Well, there's a really interesting, since you brought that up, let me see if I can find this because, or maybe it was on Hollywood Reporter, because it's worth sharing, because there was an article about Donner working on Superman, and he just wasn't called back on Superman 2. He was in the middle of shooting it, and they just didn't call him back. And I thought that was fascinating. Let me see if I can find this. I think it was today. If I can find it, I think it was on the Hollywood Reporter. It was an article that I saw. Oh yeah. This is a great. You know what? I'll read some of this story. Because it's really interesting, and it's really worth sharing. And you know how I like to read my articles. So here, let me get this set up here, and let's read it, shall we, together? Because this is a really interesting article. So this was an article. It was posted today at 2:04 p.m. And the article, it says, Richard Donner had a serious issue with Marlon Brando's Superman salary at first. Marlon Brando made a fortune to play Jor-El in 1978's Superman, and director Richard Donner said he took serious issue with the big bucks, at least at first. The iconic director, the iconic Donner, who helmed the Lethal Weapon series among several other famous works, died on Monday. He was 91. In a previous Making of Superman feature, Donner said he initially felt Brando making $3.7 million and getting 11.75% of the picture's back end for 13 days of work was outrageous. When I first came on the picture and heard how much Marlon Brando was paid for it, I was really upset because it seemed like much more money than anyone's worth, Donner said. But then he admitted, working with him and seeing him on film, to me, he is underpaid. Said Brando then of the huge sum for his immeasurable talent, everything has a price in the marketplace, so do cars, so do hula hoops, so do useless endeavors, and I don't suppose actors are any different than rock bands who start a fad. The same feature showed Donner and Brando working together on his scenes with the giant cue cards in the background that the Oscar-winning actor was famous for using. Some said it was due to Brando being lazy and not wanting to learn the lines. But the Jor-El actor said in the feature the cards allowed him to have more natural approach to the dialogue, so it did not sound rehearsed and phony. So that's sort of interesting. Now, for those of you who don't know, I guess I'll throw it. I'll play it. When I was working on Superman Returns, one of the things that they did on Superman Returns was obviously they went in and used footage that Brando had shot for Superman the movie. And one of the great things about the Donner cut of Superman 2 is they go back and they restore that Donner footage. Well, I still have that footage. And obviously, because I had it in my documentary and I had it in the blooper reels. So one of the things that I shared today was just a short clip of Marlon Brando being directed and reading cue cards as Jor-El from the 1978 Superman. And the reason I put this snippet out is because it's you hear Donner directing and you see how Brando was. So if you haven't seen it on YouTube already, I'll play it right now. It's only 30 seconds. It'll come back around. Uh-oh. Wait, that's not what I meant. That's the wrong video. Oops. Sorry about that. I played the wrong video. I've done it before. I'll do it again. So, yes, this was the video I meant to play. So here you go. Marlon Brando being directed by Richard Donner. You'll hear his voice. You'll hear Donner's voice saying cut.
The virtuous spirit has no need for thanks or approval. Only the certain conviction that what has been done is right. Develop such conviction in yourself, Elal, Kal-El, Ralph, whatever your name is.
Just cut. We'll just pick it up.
So there you heard Richard Donner's voice and Marlon Brando. How crazy must that have been directing him? I mean, I can't think of it had to have been pretty crazy to deal with that on that show. But anyway, as you all know, I'm curious to hear from y'all. Would you like to come on? If anybody wants to come on and discuss their memories of any of Richard Donner's work, tell me how you feel about it, what you remember, what you liked, what is your favorite. I'd love to hear from any of you to come on the show and tell me, as long as you have a good camera and a good microphone. I'm putting the link into the live chat. So if any of you want to come on and be on the show, you can be. And let's talk Richard Donner. And what are your favorite movies? What are your memories of seeing Superman? What are your memories of seeing Lady Hawk? Tell me. I want to know. Because I think everybody's going to have something to say about Richard Donner, which is why you're all here, right? So I want to hear from you. Mala is here. Hopefully Mala, can we see Mala? Hello, Mala. You can't hear me. So Mala, I can hear me on your output. So if you can mute me, I can put you in the show. Are you ready to come on? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear your microphone. Yes, I can hear you now. I'm going to put you in the show. And I've got someone else on the show too here. Tom Jr. Jackson. Tom Jr. How you doing, Tom? I'm going to put you in the show too. Is that okay with you? All right, gentlemen. Let me just hold, please. Give me a moment here, and I'll put you both in the show. How'd you like the show the other day, Tom? Really? No, you don't. You don't say. Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah. When Dave was saying a few things, I was like, "Uh-oh." Well, gentlemen, welcome to Midnighter. Everybody, welcome Mala and Tom Jr. Jackson.
Hello.
Now, gentlemen, first of all, let me ask you, Ma. What are your recollections? What was the first Richard Donner movie that you saw that you actually knew was directed by Richard Donner?
Well, to be honest, none until kind of later on. It was really Superman was the first kind of introduction to the kind of superhero genre. That was it really. I mean, it was nothing I've ever seen before.
Oh yeah.
When you saw some guy fly around the screen, that was kind of new to us. I'd never seen that before.
No, I mean, no one had it. You know, they had a Zoran Perisic, I think, was the name of the guy who came up with the Zoptic process that allowed them to shoot kind of a combination rear projection. He had a different lens to shoot it that was a lot lighter than and it was the first time it was ever used. I mean, nowadays we go back and we look at it and it's not as convincing as it was to people in '78, but still, it was.
I mean, to be honest with you, it still holds a place in your heart. I mean, the first time you ever watch a film and something sticks in your head, and it lives with you. It lives with you to the day you die, and that's the kind of film that does that. I'm never going to forget that film, and even though the special effects are not the same as now, it still holds up today. It really does.
Oh, I agree.
I watch it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you know, the scene where Superman goes and catches Lois Lane and catches the helicopter. I love those flying effects. I think it looks great still, and I love that whole scene. You know, you've got me, who's got you? You know, it's such a, it's so great. Say, Jim, that's a bad outfit. Whoa.
I mean, even though The Quest for Peace is not a Richard Donner film, that's the first film I remember seeing in the cinema, and that blew my mind. And obviously, that doesn't really hold up today.
No,
but I still remember that film.
Well, yeah, and it's still Christopher Reeve. I mean, that was Donner's big discovery, and you know, it's unfortunate he was not able. That the Salkinds just were having money issues and problems, and it's so weird that he was just dismissed in the middle of production of Superman 2. You know, it was just bizarre. They hired Richard Lester, who had done the 3 and 4 Musketeers and worked with the Beatles, but it just seems like such an odd choice. And I remember I actually saw the Donner cut of Superman 2 with Richard Donner at the Directors Guild. And that was a really interesting, because I don't think the Donner cut of Superman 2, it's imperfect because it's not entirely finished. But it's a really interesting look at what could have been. And I still you can tell what Donner shot because you can see it's Jeffrey Unsworth's photography. Yeah, it's good stuff. What about you, Tom? What are your memories of Donner?
The first Donner film I saw was, I think it was either The Goonies or it may have been The Toy. But I do have a soft spot for The Toy because it is one of my favorites.
Now, why is it one of your favorites?
Because as a kid, all I wanted was a Wonder Wheel.
Okay.
I just really, that's like one of my favorite scenes. It's that, and come on, Jackie Gleason was great in that movie. Even though I did not know exactly the impact that Gleason had as an actor then, as I do now, he was very funny in it, and I think pairing him up with Richard Pryor was pretty good.
Yeah, I know it absolutely was. I thought the movie was didn't quite work as well as you might have wanted it to, but it's still watchable. It's still entertaining.
And from what I hear, it's a remake of a French movie.
Yes.
And it recently just got another remake done of it. Another French remake, I believe.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think it's called, the English translation is The New Toy. or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
About a few months ago, I was reading about that they were planning on remaking it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I saw the toy when it came out. Like, it was Richard Donner because of Superman. When I really started to become a film fan, 8 and 9 years old, when I started reading books and starting to read Starlog and recognizing names. And Richard Donner was a filmmaker because of Superman, and The Omen, which are basically, The Omen was what, 76 and Superman was 78. And then you're off to the races. That's why I went and saw Inside Moves, which I don't think I was old enough to see, because it's a pretty. What's that?
Check it out. I've never heard of Inside Moves.
Yeah, I think it's on. Somebody told me that it's on HBO Max now. It's a very different kind of a movie. It's much more of a character study. It's a drama. I went and saw it, and I was kind of blown away by it, and it wasn't nearly what I expected. And then, of course, go ahead.
Another reason that the toy means a lot to me is that both the toy and the Goonies are films that my dad took me to see.
Oh.
So I have those memories of seeing those movies with my father as well, because my father took me to the movies a lot as a kid. So I'm like a huge movie fan. I remember as a kid we had a few VHS tapes. It was the Blues Brothers. I think it was Superman and Superman 2. And I remember we just watched those a lot as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Superman 2 at a special event. I know it opened in Australia in like 1980, but it opened in June of 81 here. And there was a movie theater called the Grand Cinemas Alderwood in Linwood, Washington, which is north of where I grew up. And it was the opening, like they had the opening event there, and one of their opening events was Superman 2. And, I saw Superman 2. I mean, I probably saw the movie 10 times. I saw Superman 10 times in the theater. I just kept going back. I loved it. And I love Superman too. I thought you go back and you watch it now and you can see the seams, but I still love it. I still love Terrence Stamp.
I love Superman 3. And it was my first introduction to Richard Pryor, and ever since then I love Richard Pryor. And I digressed slightly, but it was, when you saw the guy from what's it called? The big bad from
Man from Uncle, Robert Vaughn.
That's it. Yeah. And you started seeing. That was my first experience of seeing people from other films.
Right.
I recognise them from other things into what I'm watching. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
And that robot woman was awful. To that, when you look back, you really liked it at the time, but it doesn't hold up.
Yeah. Yeah, no. It's although I do like the evil Superman scene.
Oh, that's brilliant!
Although I didn't buy the hot toy of that Superman, and I'm all upset. I've got my Christopher Reeve right next to me, but I didn't get the evil Superman. But yeah, it's funny because I actually had a connection to the producer of The Omen and Lost Boys, Goonies, and Lady Hawk. This guy Harvey Bernard knew my grandfather, and when Lady Hawk, Harvey Bernard was from Seattle, and he brought Lady Hawk to show, and he showed it actually at the same theater that I saw Superman the movie at. And afterwards, I got to meet this producer, and he's like, kid, you love the movies, I hear. And he was the one that got me my job at Warner Brothers. A couple years later, he'd stayed in touch with me, and just out of the blue, he called me and asked me. He heard I was in California, and did I want a job at Warner Brothers? And I'm like, yes, please.
It's not what you know to you though.
I know, it was crazy, and it was it was weird. But that was another connection I had to Richard Donner. Actually, was that his producer on The Omen and Lady Hawk and Goonies got me a job. So that was kind of cool.
Well, my dad got me a job at a paper route, so there's the contrast.
I had a paper route. I had to have a paper route because I couldn't afford blank video cassettes in the early days. They were too expensive, and that's why I had to get a paper route so I could copy movies. But that was hard work, man. I don't know.
I hated it.
Do kids do that anymore?
Nope.
Man, that was.
I had to get up at 6 a.m.
Yep.
and deliver papers for like maybe a few bucks, and then I quit because I just couldn't do it because I was at school. I had to go to school after. I mean, I was terrible at school anyway, but going in tired is like, no, not for me.
Yeah, no, the paper routes were. The one thing I loved about the paper routes was I could always see the movie section in the paper first. That's what I did when I had 53 houses, and I would open up the paper and I'd get to see what movies were coming out when first. I think that's part of the reason I wanted a paper route. But yeah, I mean, I think Richard Donner's output in the 80s. I mean, if you look at so actually all the way back to The Omen, it's Omen 76, Superman's 78. Superman 2 was 80. Inside Moves was 80. The Toy was 82. Lady Hawk was 85. The Goonies was 85. So he actually had Lady Hawk and The Goonies come out in the same year. And those were both... Go ahead, Tom.
I've never seen Lady Hawk. And I think you've mentioned it once or twice on the show, and I've been like, I need to find this movie and see it. I've heard of it. I've never actually seen it.
Oh, it's a fantasy movie. What you're gonna notice most is the Alan Parker synth rock score. You're gonna be like, wait, what? And then he went on and did Lethal Weapon in '87, Scrooge in '88, Lethal Weapon 2 in '89, Radio Flyer was '92, Lethal Weapon 3 was '92, and then he did Tales from the Crypt and Maverick. And then Assassins and Conspiracy Theories, and Lethal Weapon 4 and Timeline. So he really, he directed a lot, every other year pretty much, all the way back to 1976 with The Omen. So he had a very healthy output of films.
Next year, the 30th of Lethal Weapon, was it
Lethal Weapon, the 30th, Lethal Weapon 2 is 89. So next year would be Lethal Weapon 3. It would be the 30th anniversary of Lethal Weapon 3, which I can't believe because...
what was it? Mel Gibson had he was trying to quit smoking and became addicted to the dog biscuit. Dog biscuit.
Yeah, that movie was a mess when they were making it. Didn't really have a script. So what are both of yours? So Mala, what is your favorite of Richard Donner's films?
Well, it has to be The Goonies. I mean... Hey, you guys! That's synonymous. I mean, how many kids are like saying that around the world? Like
a lot.
That is one of the most famous lines I think in films. And
yeah,
it was only recent that I realised that that's actually not a real person. That was that guy from Pulp Fiction with the mask. Till this day, because obviously that people obviously can look like that naturally, unfortunately, but. I didn't realise that was a costume, and obviously the Italian family is like mine, so that's what we're like. And you'll find most grandmas and mums of an Italian origin are like that. So that was it's like a home movie for me.
Wow. What about you, Tom?
I really it's not one of his most popular ones, but I really love Maverick.
Maverick's good. Based on the old TV show, it's good.
I love the one scene where Danny Glover and Mel Gibson are looking at each other like, do I know you? And you hear a little bit of that Lethal Weapon music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard Donner knew how to make those great movies that will just suck you into it, and you can have some good popcorn with it, like 16 Blocks. I really did love 16
I did
Blocks.
too. I like 16 Blocks a lot. I did too.
And they made Bruce Willis look a bit older than he should have been in that movie.
Yeah, but that was like one of the last times Bruce Willis really cared.
Yeah. So.
Because but I really liked how he was playing kind of against the John McClane Die Hard role, and I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot.
That movie probably could have been a Die Hard movie as well.
Yeah,
I think it might have almost been one too.
Yeah. I could see that. I'm not sure, but I could definitely definitely see that. But yeah, I mean, I really liked 16 Blocks.
Scrooge was another great. Scrooge is and that's like an annual movie to watch every year now too. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that movie. We used to quote that one a lot in school. But my best friend, who was my ex-girlfriend, she used to go, maybe, probably, perhaps, like. Well,
I mean,
no, she never hit me though. But
the cast of Scrooged, I mean, it's crazy. You look at who's in Scrooged. Everyone from Mary Lou Retton to Brian Doral Murray, Lee Majors, John Houseman, Buddy Hackett, Robert Goulet, Jamie Farr from MASH, Mabel King, Alfre Woodard, Michael Pollard, Robert Mitchum, Carol Kane, Bobcat Goldthwait, the great John Glover, John Forsythe, Karen Allen, and Bill Murray. Yeah. What a cast!
It took me a while to get to like Scrooged. I don't know why, because I like pretty much everything that Bill Murray's done, but Scrooged, I don't know. I just didn't warm to it for a little bit, but now I really like it.
Yeah,
I think Bill Murray and Donner didn't get along making that movie. I read somewhere.
Yeah, I could see that. I find it difficult to think anybody would butt heads with Donner, but you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to rotate some more people on and find out what their favorite movies are. So I want to thank you guys for being here and talking about Richard Donner.
And I'll watch some of his movies today, I think.
Yeah, if it's on HBO Max, everybody should watch Inside Moves because it's a really affecting movie, I think. So
yeah, I'm fed up with recycling the same film, so I need to find something I've never seen before.
Yeah, watch Inside Moves.
All right, I'll let you know.
Check it out. Report back. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, gentlemen. I very much appreciate it. And we'll see who's next, who's going to come on next and talk about Richard Donner. Are Goonies forever? I don't know, man. I got Steve Foley coming on. Steve wanted to come on the show earlier. He mentioned to me that he wanted to jump on, so I'm going to just give me a second here while I get Steve on to the show. So that'll be fun to have Steve here because he wanted to come on. He expressed an interest in coming on. So, didn't you? I can hear you. You did. How's it going? I'm going to put you... well, hang on. No one can hear you yet because I haven't put you in. And I'm going to put you in, Coach, or Steve. I don't know if maybe you were a coach. I don't know. And if anybody else wants to jump in, they are welcome to do so. I'll just put you in now and see if anyone shows up. So, Steve, welcome to the Midnighter.
Thanks for having me on, dude.
You're on. You are on. You're here. Mm. So, what? When it comes to Richard Donner, how do you feel about him?
So when I was 12 years old, I got introduced to Lady Hawk, and that was one of my first introductory films after Star Wars into this fantasy kind of swords and sorcery and magic and shit.
And did you dig it? Did you love it?
And when, yeah, dude, it was amazing. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, oh my god, and I'm sitting around my family and they didn't get it. None of them got it. They didn't understand shit. Oh, can I curse? I'm sorry.
You can curse. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. So they didn't understand any of what was going on, and I'm like, yeah, this is a fucking great movie, right?
But it is a great movie.
So yeah, it was a great movie. And
totally.
That was. It wasn't my first introduction to that kind of filmmaking, but because I was a Star Wars guy first, right?
What about Superman? By the way, we have joining us. I think he's here. I can't hear him. Are you here, Script Doctor? I can.
I can hear you well.
I'm bringing the script doctor. It was covering up Mr. Foley's face. Let me fix that. Script doctor is here, and I will get your a picture for you soon. But we can hear you, script doctor. You are in the show. So welcome, the script doctor, one of my favorite YouTubers and people I stream with. So welcome to the show, Scripty.
I am so glad to be here. Especially, I mean, it is a sad day, but it's one of celebration of a man's like impact in the industry, and such a great career that was inspiring to myself and almost every other filmmaker I've ever met to some degree.
Yes,
loves a Richard film.
Yeah, I actually said in the chat, I said, his films are like comfort food.
Yeah, they really are.
You know what I mean? They are. And Lady Hawk was my introductory, but then we get the Toy, The Omen. Because I was only 12 years old when I got Lady Hawk. When I got a little older, I'm like, oh, The Omen's fucking badass. This is a great movie. What the hell, And then his whole. I mean, we can run down his Ironside. Sixth Sense, Broadcast. I mean, dude. He's been in FBI, 12 O'Clock High, Perry Mason, Gilligan's Island, dude. Yeah. I'm like,
I was saying that at the beginning of the show. How many? I mean, he literally cut his teeth on just about every single TV show in the 60s and 70s that you can imagine, and what a prolific guy. And I think that's. He did really cut his teeth in television. And
right.
As I said,
so when you see Donner on the screen, it's going to be, at least it's going to be fun, right? It's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. And even when his movies might not have been like, I remember seeing Conspiracy Theory back in the day when it came out in the late 90s. But
I was going to bring that one up.
Watching it now, it seems that it's far more relevant today than it was when it came out.
I know, but I like that movie. I thought I thought it was a cool take on a theme, right?
Oh yeah.
So it was a good take on a theme, and at the time you had two big actors, whatever you think about
Mel Gibson
now. I mean, that's neither here nor there, but I mean, at the time, it was a great movie. It was a fun movie. Maybe I shouldn't have said great movie. It's just a fun movie. Yeah, he makes fun movies.
That's what I think. I mean, I don't think you don't watch Richard Donner movies and ponder them. They're meat and potatoes populist films. What do you think, Script?
Well, funny enough, we had to do in college a whole study on Richard Donner at the time.
Wow!
And one of the things that we found is that he nails relationships between characters either through performance or through cinematography, like no other director did, and I think that's what attributes to his comfort food approach.
Yes,
is that he loves relationships. That also goes back to his time as being an actor. And one of the things that was miraculous that I saw when I was looking over his career, especially in college, and again, it just reminded me as well, is he directed 3 episodes of Wild Wild West.
Yep.
And that has a lot of crew and writing crossover with the Batman 66 series. It's like, why did he never direct one of those 2-parters? Because that is definitely in his wheelhouse at the time. That would have been fantastic.
But I think that prowess, if I can interrupt you for just a minute, I'm sorry to do that, but that prowess is completely. We see that in the Toy. When he makes the Toy, it's such a good movie. It's so funny, and the dialogue is so quick and great wit. I was like, man, that's a good movie,
It's a really
and
good movie.
I was a little kid. And I'm like, yeah, this is a good movie. Maybe now I don't know if it's a good movie anymore, but especially with a script doctor on the screen, I don't know. But
oh no, I would say Toy holds up well.
It does.
I actually just got a copy of it on DVD. I couldn't find it on Blu-ray, but I got it on DVD like a year ago. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was all right. I mean, listen, no director is going to have a 100% track record, but the one thing that allows Richard Donner to stand up, and you mentioned it earlier, is the fact that he can direct any genre. He knows how to do it.
Well, yeah, The Omen, dude. The Omen. Oh my goodness. I mean, Jesus. You know.
The Omen.
Next to The Exorcist, that was the one that got me. You know, I'm a huge Exorcist fan,
yeah.
But when The Omen came out, I was like, oh my God, you know, that scared the shit out of me, because I was like, oh yeah, that could actually happen. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you could definitely have a nightmare child, of course. But one of the things that showed his directing prowess is the fact that he made Gregory Peck reconsider an acting choice and deferred to Donner, even though he objected to it. There's an interview about that. You can find it on YouTube. It's one of the hour-long ones.
Really?
Where Richard Donner talks about how he's trying to get Peck to do this particular performance that Peck doesn't want to do. Peck wants to make it dramatic, thrash things around, and Donner's like, nope, you're going to be somber, you're going to be quiet, you're going to be sad, defeated, you're not going to do anything. And they got back and forth, and Donner's like, just do the one scene that I want to do once, and then we'll do yours afterwards, and then we'll show it off, and then we'll let the test audience and the producers and all that stuff decide. And they did it. They did the screening, and Gregory Peck stands up. He's like, I don't want to see the other one. Richard Donner was right. And it's like, that's Gregory Peck. Like,
the one take, like, the one take was the you know, in the can. Yeah, totally right.
It's like,
how does that work, Rob? I mean, you have to finagle an actor into doing that, right? You can't just say lights, camera, action, right?
No, I mean, look, I think one of the key things when you're directing a film is you have to have a rapport with your actors. I mean, there have always been stories about actors and directors that don't get along. But the thing is, actors really do want to please their director, and actors want to be directed because they need to know what they're doing is the proper, that there's a vision behind it, and actors
plus that's their job, right?
Right.
I mean,
but they're you know, sometimes directors, believe it or not, they're not good with actors. There's a lot of directors that aren't comfortable with talking to actors, don't know how to talk to actors. You know, they don't know how to convey their ideas, and that can be really difficult. But I think with Richard Donner coming out of television, when television you're moving fast. You know, you have to know how to talk to your actors and convey what you want because you don't have time to fuck around. And so I'm sure when Richard Donner was an incredibly charismatic, really personable guy. Like, he was having a good time. He always was. He was a man of great humor, and he had a big personality. And I think that part of that was forged by working in television, and the fact that he worked in all these different genres of TV. Because, you know, when you come onto a TV set, you are not the auteur. It's very different from directing movies, because what you're doing is you're a guest. The director's a guest on a TV show.
Right.
The TV show, the really the most important man on the set, as far as production goes, is the first AD.
The showrunner, right? Yeah.
Well, the in terms of production days, showrunner, sure, but the first AD is what he keeps the ship, he keeps the trains running. And but Donner knew that, and he went from show to show to show, and he directed all kinds of different shows too, westerns, fantasies, legal dramas, children's adventure. I mean, he directed everything, and I think that really helped him when he was making movies, because I think you see a lot of actors come back and, like Mel Gibson. They worked together on Maverick. They worked together on Conspiracy Theory and the Lethal Weapon movies, clearly. And Mel Gibson was very humorous. I mean, I only saw him a couple times when I was on the Warner lot, but he was always hilarious, you know. And I know that he got in some stuff.
I'll tell you what, whatever you think about Mel Gibson, his movies are amazing. The movies he directs are amazing.
Braveheart and Apocalypto, and
come on, dude.
he's a world class director.
Yeah.
The Phantasmagorium show says, "Have Gun Will Travel." Another great show.
That's me.
So good. Oh, is that you?
It is.
You said that. Well, you sent me a super chat. Thank you.
I did.
Have Gun Will Travel. All of Donner's projects were comfort food. And
they are,
you go.
but they really are. They feel good. They make you feel good. You know.
Yeah, and Twin Flick says, "Crap, I want desperately to talk some Donner. I have a lot to say, but no camera tonight. It's madness. Sheer madness." Well, I'm sorry, Twin Flicks. Our friend Terrier from Norway says, "Many people shit on it, but like you, Maverick was a fun Western with real chemistry going on. He also did great work in TV." Yeah, a lot of people like Maverick. I liked Maverick when it came out. I think it was seen as being a little lightweight. And I'm like, but isn't that kind of what it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a charming gambling film, and James Coburn has fun in it, and it's cheeky and it's.
It was too cheeky for me. So
too cheeky.
Yeah, just for me, that's okay. We don't all have to like everything.
No, you don't. Your Muslim uncle says, "New to the show and love the time being famous and enjoying talking to regular people." Oh wait, I hear new to the show and live the time. I think maybe it was some guy. I understand what you're saying.
Regular people.
Being famous and enjoying talking to regular people fits everything I've seen from you. Humble, kind, and fun. Well, your Muslim uncle, I thank you for that. But I think, that's one of the great things about the Midnighter is I like to bring people on that people I know, like Script Doctor, people I don't, like Steve, and have a chat. Let's have a talk. And now I get to know people. So that's
let's talk about Richard Donner. It's a great topic.
Absolutely.
I mean, unfortunately, it's on his demise, but
Twin Flicks goes on to say, "What was so great about Maverick is everyone thought it was a remake of the show until the reveal of Gibson being Garner's son. So instead of a remake, it was a sequel to the show. I always thought that was brilliant. I love it when they do canonical reboots that work in canon. I always think that's great. But let me ask you this, Scripty. Of the scripts that he worked on, or the scripts that he directed, how do you feel about the screenplays that he chose to direct?
Well, that's a good question. I think he had a great eye for talent and what he wanted to put out there. Every script, aside from the Lethal Weapon films, I think, everything that he directed stretched his directing muscles. That's kind of what I kind of saw. Like, even doing it from television to time is like, he did, the sci-fi and horror with Twilight Zone. He did comedy with Get Smart. The Get Smart people don't really remember. I think that's kind of what he wanted to do, is like, he didn't want to be pigeonholed into one type of director. He just wanted to service the material as best he could. So like his Superman the movie, that's clearly it's a romantic film with a science fiction superhero veneer, because it is a love story between father and son, between man and Clark, Superman and Lois, and the unrequited nature of responsibility as well. Also between Glenn Ford's a little brief role with Jeff East in Smallville, with obviously Christopher Reeve dubbing over the voice, to also his mother and all that type of stuff. Like, it's all hardened relationships. And then when you get into Shane Black and Lethal Weapon, and you have these two guys who come from completely different worlds that are bonded together through this crazy conspiracy crime happening in their jurisdiction. And then you got Scrooged. Lady Hawk is also a great fantasy film. Like, you never really expect, you don't know what to get from Donner with regard to a genre. It's like he just wanted to do whatever kind of piqued him, and he picked stuff that was great. And I think the stuff he did with Shane Black and the stuff he did with Tom Mankiewicz really kind of sing.
Oh yeah. Somebody asked me the other day, is like, "What's your favorite assassin movie?" And I had to pause. I had no idea. I was on the spot. I'm like, I don't know what my favorite assassin movie is. But then I came back with them. Assassins.
Written by the Wachowskis.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's a good movie.
It was fun.
A lot of people shit on the movie, but I thought it was good.
Well, Script brought up a good point. I mean, Donner, if you think about it, and I never thought of it this way until you brought it up, but thinking about the fact that he was really good with relationships with people. Like the core, you know, people talk about the Fast and the Furious movies being about family, but so is Lethal Weapon. I mean, the Murtaugh family was always at the core of that, and they brought Mel Gibson, who was essentially an orphan. You know, he lost his wife and he had no ties, but that became that familial bond, the bond that Riggs and Murtaugh had, and then that the Murtaugh family had with Riggs later, was a big part of that story. And then, you know, the relationship with Leo Getz and the relationship with Rene Russo. And I think, like Script, you pointed out, the relationships were even Lady Hawk is a movie that's all about relationships. Yeah. And I think that was maybe his strong suit. That I never thought of it that way, but even Superman the movie is all about relationships. And like Script pointed out, I mean, maybe my favorite scene. We certainly don't see any of this in the Marvel universe because it's completely desexualized. But the scene when Lois Lane first meets Superman on her impossibly huge, amazing deck in New York City, or quote unquote Metropolis. I mean, Superman's kind of a baller in that scene. You know, he kind of rolls in. He knows what's up. He knows that she's enamored of him. And, you know, what color's my underwear? And then he's like, pink, finally. You got a lead planter. I mean, he's Superman. If Superman gets down, it's not like all the superheroes are not neutered. If I was a superhero, man, I'd be.
I guess Batman doesn't anymore, but whatever.
And Tom Mankiewicz script Batman down.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, Bruce Wayne being a playboy, just like James Bond. Like, I don't understand. It's so weird. The one thing that our superheroes, I don't think that's one of the things I do like about like The Boys. Because if I had superpowers, I'd be smashing. I'd be crushing out there. I would have game if I was Superman, and I'd have a woman in every city. Because why not?
Yeah, in every port, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you're Superman, so you can fly around the world. I'd have girls in Paris and Barcelona and Copenhagen and London and Tokyo and Seoul and Beijing. I mean, I'd be flying around the world, throughout Africa. You know, I mean, I would truly be the ambassador of love if I was Superman. What that has to do with Richard Donner, I don't know.
I don't know.
Now my own fantasies are seeping through. I guess that's not so bad.
Funny.
Well, it'd be a good thing that as Superman you'd be faster than the speeding bullet, because you'd have to, with all those women, at least 280 of them. If you're gonna have the country.
I know, but you'd be so you'd have to, but you could get to each country very quickly. You know.
That's true.
Terrier, though, says he loves Superman, but he hates Margot Kidder as Lois.
Oh, wow. Really?
Who would you cast instead if you had your pick? Awesome. I'd give it to Karen Allen. Well, they did work together.
Oh, yeah.
But I think Margot Kidder was the proper Lois for the time. I mean, I know.
I think so, too.
There's a difference by the time you get to Superman 3, it's like, okay, Margot, you got to stop smoking cigarettes. And they even make a point of that in the movie, but it's like, but I
Rob,
think go ahead.
Have you watched the new show?
I love it.
It's really I really like the way they're portraying the Superman with a family, and he has these familial. You know, I have to deal with my kids are doing this and my kids are doing this. I think doing a show like that and bringing that kind of familial, I don't even know the way that I don't even know how to say it, but telling a story in a way that it makes Superman like a regular guy, not we don't need a regular dude, but I mean, he has to deal with family stuff. I think it's awesome. And it's hitting for me.
Oh no, I agree. What I love about it is, you know, it doesn't matter how many superpowers you have. It doesn't help you be a better father.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I think that's the one challenge, because the people always wonder, why is it that they can't make a good Superman movie? Well, the problem with a good Superman movie is, who's your antagonist going to be? Like after Zod, who was Kryptonian, what are you going to do? Bring Mr. Mixelplitic?
Mixelplix.
I mean, what are you going to do? Because he's magic? No one's going to buy that. And then where's your story going to go? I think that's the real problem with a Superman storyline. Is it's hard now in our realistic. All of Superman's villains, the Toyman, Mongol, Metallo, Brainiac. I mean, all these his pantheon of villains do not lend themselves to the real world, right? And it's hard. I think it's really hard to. And even Superman the movie, as much as I love it, it's very schizophrenic in tone. If you watch the first 30 minutes, and it's just this sweeping American myth. With Smallville, and when Superman's talking about every time I get the football, I can make a touchdown every time, but he can't play football because, and when Glenn Ford says, I know one thing, I know you are here for a reason. And then these sweeping vistas that they actually shot in Alberta, but still, it's still like Americana like you've never seen. It's drenched in that. And then by the time you get to Metropolis and Clark is bumbling around and you see Ned Beatty as Otis and Luthor is you're in some kind of high comedy farce at that point, and it's a complete collision of tones, and somehow though it all hangs together and works. I mean, even though it's wacky, Luthor's still going to kill tens of millions of people with 2 nuclear bombs.
Yeah,
my mother lives in
Otis.
But Lex, my mother lives in Hackensack, and he looks at his watch. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
And he callously is nuking people. I mean, even though Superman saved everybody, but still. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one thing that was kind of interesting, because before the show, I was rereading the original March draft of Superman the movie. It's parts 1 and 2. And there's a lot of jokes in there that not only are also featured in Superman 2, but also in Superman 3. For instance, the Leaning Tower of Pisa gag.
Right.
That's in the Superman 2. And man is so happy. He's over the moon. He and Lois there's no barriers between them. He's flying around getting wine and pizza and things. And he flies so fast that he causes the Leaning Tower Pizza to go erect, which is clearly the allegory that's being erected, and he doesn't notice.
Right.
The shopkeeper's freaked out because all of his tourists. And then at the end of the movie, after he goes back in time, he flies back, sees, I kind of broke Leaning Tower, even though he's done the thing that Italy's been trying to do for the last 40 years. He leads it back, and then the shopkeeper breaks everything and then, flips off Superman as he flies back. That's a Tom Mankiewicz joke that Donner thought was kind of cute, but it was, cut. They never shot it, but they decided Lesser decided to use it for Superman 3. But it has all these little tongue-in-cheek things. There's the scene of the souffle where Lois and Superman are face to face. You think they're in bed, and she's like, "I've done this 100 times. I'll walk you through it." And then you do a wide shot, and it's him using his heat vision to rise to cook the souffle, and she's telling him when to stop, and it's all set up in distraction, and it's really cleverly done. And I think one of the things that maybe have caused some people who don't appreciate Margot Kidder in the role is the fact that she never really got a whole lot of screen time to play the character, and the stuff that she does in the sequel, at least the original sequel before Lester came in, really fleshed her out a lot, and probably would have made her shine more with that role.
Yeah, I don't know. Margot Kidder is Lois Lane. I mean, at least for guys my age, probably. I'm 48 years old, and she is. It is. That's who Lois Lane is. And
well, yeah, especially because she's also the tough as nails reporter in New York City. She very much seems that in the movie. I mean, I think she's really. That was another thing. I think Richard Donner had a great eye for casting.
Mm-hmm.
He really, he really cast his movies properly. He knew, and again, coming out of television, he probably had a real. And I know he had a real love of actors. And
sure,
he really had a. He had a lot. Just if you look at his movies, he puts together such casts that are just fun. I'm sure.
Well, Conspiracy. There's Sandra Bullock and Patrick Stewart in it.
Yeah.
Don't even pay attention to that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And putting Joe Pesci in Lethal Weapon 2 was genius.
Masterclass.
Yeah, Leo Getz was such a great character, and getting Pesci to play him
in that way, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, dude, how did you do that?
Yeah,
but that's that. I guess that's the genius of Donner.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, well, gentlemen, I think I will rotate you out and bring in some more people. This was a delightful conversation. Script, I still want to. We got to talk. We got stuff we have to do.
Yeah. Well, if you have free time tomorrow, just hit me up on Twitter. It's my day off.
Oh, okay, cool.
And just shoot the breeze or something before your shows. Let me know, and we'll figure something out.
I'll hit you up. And Steve, I'm glad you got to come on the show.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much for having me, dude.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. This was awesome. So, gentlemen, we will talk again. It was good to have them on the show. I always like talking to Script Doctor, and I love it when people want to come on the show and they get on the show. So let's see. I'll get 2 more people before I end tonight's show. I want to keep this one short because starting a new week tomorrow, and there's much I have to do. But if anybody else wants to jump on, you are welcome and talk some Richard Donner. That was actually pretty good. I quite enjoyed talking to Mr. Foley. And Andy. Andy is here, and Mike Preston. Andy's comic. His camera. But that's okay. Hang on. I'm going to put them in. Put them in, Coach. Andy, we see you now. That's good. And we see Mike. I've got you both. So I'm going to put you both in. And I'll just hold on a minute while I get you here. I will do that. Andy just went to do something. He's gone. All right, so gentlemen, I'm going to put you in now, if that's okay. I hope it is. You can hear me. Mike, can you hear me? Mike can hear me. Well, that's good. So Mike is in. Mike is here with us. And then let me just put in Andy here. Get him in. Andy all the way from Argentina. I can hear you, Andy. You sound good. Let me just get you both in here, get you in the show. Sorry, people, it's taking me a long time here. So welcome, Andy, and welcome Mike Preston to the show. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Great.
I'm doing okay.
Now, I would ask you both, why don't I start with you, Mike? Were you a Richard Donner, or are you a Richard Donner fan?
A lot of his movies I liked, but funny thing that when you talked about Lady Hawk, when it first came out, my father said, which movie do you want to see, Return of the Jedi or Lady Hawk? And I had already seen Return of the Jedi, and I had already seen Lady Hawk as well. And I said, let's go see Lady Hawk.
Yeah, well, because Jedi had been out for 2 years when Lady Hawk came out. So it had been out for a while. Or wait, was it earlier? Was it 84 or was it late? You might be right.
It was about the same time, because I remember specifically it was like, which movie do you want to see? And I convinced my father, I'm like...
Yeah, I could be wrong about that. Let's see. I want to find out.
Released, or I'm not sure.
It was 85, but Jedi, they re-released the Star Wars movie, so that makes sense. Yeah. But did your dad go to see? Did you end up seeing Lady Hawk with him?
In protest, yes, but I actually liked it a little better than Jedi. So,
what about you, Andy? Do you have a favorite Richard Donner movie?
Yeah, actually, probably the first time I saw Superman the movie was maybe when I was 6 years old. It was 86, a few years after it came out. But the thing is that apart from Richard Donner, that the first movie, the first Superman movie that I saw in the cinema was Superman 4, whatever. But the thing is that Superman the movie struck me really hard in that scene that you mentioned all night. The scene when he catches Lois Lane and the helicopter.
Yep.
And then he flies up. And I was 6, I was 6. And I'm seeing that and saying, wow. So, yeah, that's the first thing that struck me really hard. And I didn't know that Richard Donner was the director when I was 6.
Sure.
Okay. Then I fell in love with Lethal Weapon 1, and it became one of my favorite movies with Die Hard and many other movies that are 80s action movies, of course. But Lethal Weapon 1, it was the buddy cop movie. It's been 48 Hours. I love 48 Hours, and all those movies are great. I love them. But Lethal Weapon 1 is the buddy cop movie, as I think. You know what I mean? And another thing is that I appreciate that in Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson is such a broken man. He's not like a ladies' man, a perfect funny guy who gets the chick like in Lethal Weapon 2 or 3. In Lethal Weapon 2 or 3, he's a different guy. He's like, I'll get you, baby. Or in the third one, they didn't have a script. I didn't know that until not long ago that they didn't have it. Actually, you realized me that they didn't have a script.
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking it, I say, yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, it was kind of a mess making Lethal Weapon.
But the thing is that in Lethal Weapon is so interesting. The character of Riggs is so interesting, because it's like you said, it's like a kid who doesn't have parents. He lost everything. He doesn't have like a reason to live apart from the, doing the job, like he says, right? And in Lethal Weapon 2, continue with Richard Donner, something was missing. It was like we are in a very big budget action movie and we are crazy and where's but something was missing. You know what I'm talking about, Rob?
Yeah, I do.
And in the third one, it was fun, but something was more missing. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense saying that.
Well, I think the first Lethal Weapon is a really serious, dark movie.
It's an action drama. It's not a comedy.
No, it's not a comedy. And I mean, you got Mel Gibson putting a gun in his mouth, threatening to blow his own head off. I mean, he's and his wife's dead.
I don't like the fourth one. And every time I listen to John Campea saying, "Oh, the fourth one is my favorite. The fourth one is my favorite," and say, "What?" I mean, the fourth one is like a joke of the first one. It's like, hey, we're coming together, everybody, after all these years to make jokes and jokes and more jokes and laughing all the time. Do you realize that in Lethal Weapon 4, they are like more concerned about making jokes and laughing all the time? And then some action. Where's the drama? Where's the old Riggs?
Yeah, there isn't any.
Completely lost.
Even I, like, as much as I enjoy Lethal Weapon 2, I thought it was a real step down because there's real stakes and real jeopardy, and Lethal Weapon's kind of a nasty movie. The villains are fucking mean.
And it's
they're
great
mean people
because of it.
Yeah, they're mean people, and they're ruthless killers, and I mean, in Lethal Weapon 2, there's still, like, Patsy Kensitt's character gets killed, so there's still... But, yes, by the time you get to... With Lethal Weapon 3, you've got Rene Russo and Leo Getz, and it's become a complete parody of itself, and it's not...
And the fourth one, the only actor that took the fourth one seriously was Jet Li. He was in... Because he was looking for Hollywood, man. So he was looking for Hollywood. He was all fucking in. The rest of the characters, they were just playing who's the better joke, you know? And I saw that, and I'm comparing that with my favorite of those, which is the first one, and I'm saying, yes, those are the same actors. But talking of John Campea, I respect the man, of course. What are you talking about, man? Your favorite one? Well, it's subjective.
Well,
Whatever.
it's also I think when people with John, I know it's when the first time a movie hits him, you know, when he sees it and it has an impact. And he's younger than me, so you know, when Lethal One came out, it was a hard R movie, you know, and came out, and it was by the time when they go on cable and you watch these movies, and I'll tell you. The soundtracks of the Lethal Weapon films with the saxophone, was it David Sanborn who's playing the sax on is it David Sanborn or is somebody like that? And though that music can be very comedic. Yeah. But it's good stuff, but I think that it gets played differently as it moves, as the series goes on. It's really mournful and serious in the first movie, but then that music, that that they always play.
Yes, and as it goes forward, it's losing more and more of its identity. And I respect it. Richard Donner, for me, was a genius. He was a genius. He was a great director. He really broke many facets and many things that haven't been done before him, and I respect them. And I was just giving my opinion about that it was not that great, that the first Lethal Weapon was so deep and so emotional. It has so much meat, you know what I mean? And the rest of the movies, they became, all right, more action, more jokes. Okay, now we don't have a script. Now let's make all jokes, some action, saying that we are old all the time, and we forget about the drama because now we are making a movie for kids. Now, the first one was an R-rated with pornography, scenes, with suicides, with torture, of teenagers. You know, that was the first one. And the last one, it was Chris Rock and Joe Pesci trying to see who was the funniest one. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I think, you know, as far as it kind of reflected where those guys were in real life. They all got together and they were having a laugh, you know, and I think, and they didn't have Shane Black, that Lethal Weapon script was really his big breakthrough script, and they you know, apparently that Shane Black wrote a Lethal Weapon 2 draft that was so dark, they're like, we can't make this.
Well,
you know.
Okay.
So, but what about you? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
I was going to ask Mike. Mike, what are, I mean, of other Richard Donner movies besides, say, Superman and Lethal Weapon and Lady Hawk, were you a Goonies fan?
Oh, Goonies is saw that in the theaters. Our local $1 every week theater. Me and my friend drove. What am I saying? We walked to the theater, and you know, classic '80s stuff. Loved it to this day. I know you're not a big fan, but
no.
Yeah, you know.
I was a little old. I was a little old for the Goonies, I think. But
with Lethal Weapon, though, the best scene was when he finds the woman he had just slept with dead underwater. Right. That was such a great scene. Like, you knew it was not a joke. That was
dark.
It was killing, all because she slept with him. They murdered her, and she's just dead under the water, tied there. For him to find.
And everyone really liked her. I loved Patsy Kensit in that role. I liked the relationship that was developing between them, and then they killed her, and I was like, wow, they're not fucking around in this movie.
In any movie, she would have been in the end. She's the love interest. He's happy now. But no, they kill her off.
No, and that's why, I mean, Lethal Weapon 2 still has, like, you know, death by surfboard or whatever. It's
at least some things.
There's some good stuff in there. It's interesting. Anthony Gonzalez says, on the subject of Donner's casting, It was also genius of him to cast Tom Hanks as the narrator in Radio Flyer.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, yeah, that was. And my question though is, what did Richard Donner do as a producer on X-Men? Well, I can answer that as being that I produced the special features for that movie. Richard Donner and Lauren Schuler Donner, they acquired the rights to X-Men. So their company owned those rights, and Donner opted not to make the movie. There was a time when I think he was thinking about making the movie. Then they found Brian. So he truly was like an executive producer on that. Brian revered Richard Donner, so Brian consulted him and about the script and about the settings and the milieu and everything to do. And they had long conversations together about how to approach these things. Obviously, Brian showed his reverence in Superman Returns, how much he loved the first Superman. But yeah, so, and then of course Lauren was on set the whole time producing the movie. So their company was actually making that movie, and as executive producers do. But they were participants. So they were there. They were on set. They were watching it all being made. So yeah.
And the last credit of executive producer that he had, not that fortunately, was Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
In 2009. That's the last credit to his name.
Yeah,
he just retired.
Yeah, he basically retired. And I heard Lauren Schuler Donner said he had been quite ill for a long time.
I see.
So yeah, I don't think.
But he talked forever about making Lethal Weapon 5, and now I don't think it's gonna happen. But I don't know if there was a point about having a fifth one with Danny Glover, who's what, 80? 77
yeah,
or whatever.
They can't like.
We already got too old for this shit.
We are ancient for this shit. Now we are too old for this shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, people. It's no longer believable that people would be on the force at that age.
And you know what I didn't like in the fourth one? In the fourth one, there was the script was like stubborn on making Mel Gibson being too old for that shit. And Mel Gibson wasn't old.
Right.
He wasn't old. But he was playing like he was old, decrepit. He was in his prime. He was 97. He was still making Braveheart. 2 years before that was making Braveheart. I didn't like that. That he was playing like an old man. And he wasn't an old man.
Yeah, they were just trying to reverse the joke, and I don't think it really.
Yeah, it didn't work.
This is interesting. Norwegian Kryptonian sends in a super chat and says, Ethan Van Sciver once said that when Superman shows up, you want the audience to know that it's going to be okay. And in my opinion, Donner made the audience feel that. I totally agree with you there, Norwegian Kryptonian. When Superman showed up in Superman the movie, you knew the other than when Lois Lane dies in the earthquake and he has to turn the world back. But you feel that when he shows up because of his presence. The one thing that Christopher Reeve, I think, brought that cannot be undersold is how nurturing. I mean, he really felt like you knew that he cared from they really did a good job of making his Superman empathetic. And I thought that was something that was incredibly important to do. And you really felt it in Christopher Reeve's performance.
I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead, please. You.
Did he turn back time of the entire planet, or did he just go back in time? I always wondered which one it was.
Well, you know what? Look, I think the turning back the Earth is a visual metaphor. I don't think. He's not really spinning the Earth back. He's going back in time. He himself is breaking the time barrier, and it just is a cool visual. Like, how do you show him doing that? Well, he's going to fly really fast, and I think that's how they show him going back in time. I mean, I've had this conversation with people for a long time.
The climatic goes weird.
Yeah, as if turning the world back would actually work. Like, what would that do?
Kill everybody on the planet, actually. Reversing gravity and probably the entire planet.
But I believed it. 6 years old, I believed it. That's all that matters.
I mean, as a kid, I knew, like, as a kid when I saw him, like, he's not really spinning the world back. He's just, I even understood as a kid, I'm like, this is the way he's breaking the time barrier. I totally get it. But a lot of people to this day, they're like, no, he spun the world back. I'm like,
like I said, Wouldn't that stop gravity killing everybody?
Yeah, I mean, it would it'd be, plus, why would turning the world back make you go back in time? It's him going faster than. So
it's like trying to make sense of James Bond. It's the same shit. Just don't think about it. Just enjoy the movie, okay?
Yeah.
Can I say one thing that it came to my mind after that last question? When I'm listening to that about the way Christopher Reeve portrayed Superman, I'm thinking of him as someone who just gets it. Like he's like a father figure to the whole world. Like he's somebody who knows what to do. And in contrast to that, in Man of Steel, which I love Man of Steel, I'm a hardcore Man of Steel, but in Man of Steel, Superman is like a kid who's trying to figure everything out.
Yes.
He's not somebody who knows what to do and has all the answers. But when you see Christopher Reeve, even in the first movie, you see his eyes when he saves the people and all that, and you don't see him like worried or trying to figure it out. He's got it. You know, he's a mature superhero. He's not a kid trying to figure things out. And I think it's pretty interesting, the contrast. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but in Superman, I mean, people forget, but he's in he goes for 12 years to learn everything he can about the 28 known galaxies. He's going with that on that journey, and he's out of the public eye, and he learns everything he needs to know. So the Superman and Man of Steel doesn't get that opportunity. You know, he finds himself, I mean, he finds out he's a Kryptonian, and like a week later, Zod shows up on Earth. So
it's
he's
not
like,
better or worse, it's just different.
Yeah, he's like, and that's what people don't seem to get, is that he doesn't have the knowledge. Well, I want to be more like the Christopher Reeve Superman. Well, that guy had 12 years.
It's a different story.
It's a different story.
You just need to understand it's a different story. Zack Snyder wanted to tell about a boy trying to figure things out, and Richard Donner spoke about a man who already knows this shit, who knows how to save the world. He just needs to encounter conflict, figure it out very quickly because he knows, he's confident. You know, you see his eyes, he knows what to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
The one thing about Donner that he had it over Man of Steel, and I do love Man of Steel, is that in Superman, the original Superman, he could not have ever saved his father's life. His father had a heart attack. That was it. Man of Steel, he could have saved his father's life. He chose not to because, Dad, let me go save the dog. Now, I love dog, but my father or the dog dies.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's something that I'm totally agreeing.
There was no change. All my superpowers, that was a statement. All my powers, and there's nothing I could do for our father, my father. And in Man of Steel, he could have saved him, no problem. But
they needed to kill him.
I think that, I mean, I know that that's it. What's interesting to me is there are a lot of moments in modern movies where things like that happen, and I can't get past it. Even though I love Man of Steel, but that particular moment, the way it's done, like, no one would know what they would have. It's like you can't. I understand that Jonathan Kent doesn't want Superman's powers to be revealed to the world, but it's like no one is going to stand by and allow their father to sacrifice themselves. And if Clark used his super speed, nobody would have known what would have happened anyway because of the tornado bearing down on them. It would have been
from Smallville. Let's be honest, they couldn't see him most of the time.
Yeah, they wouldn't know what was going on. But yeah, and I always thought that was weird. And I it's hard to get past that kind of thing in movies because it's like, come on, man, you just don't believe it. And I think that's a big problem in Man of Steel. Like, I believe Superman kills Zod because there's nothing he can do. Yeah. You know, it's an extinction level event. Zod's going to kill all the humans on the Earth. What can Superman do? He has to save everybody.
Even if it's an extinction level event, though, he's going to kill 8-9 people in that room. Just that alone, justifiable.
Right, absolutely. And it's not like you can put him in jail. What's Superman going to do with another Kryptonian? Like, he doesn't know. Like, I wouldn't know. There's no. What am I going to? People are like, well, you can put him on the moon or something. Well, what's that going to do?
He's going to fly back.
Yeah, he's going to come back. Sonny Dominguez has a good
Yeah.
point. Sonny Dominguez says 2 actresses who I think embody Lois Lane that, to my knowledge, were never considered would be Sigourney Weaver and Jennifer Connelly. The 2 good choices for. I mean, Sigourney Weaver could absolutely do it. We saw a kind of a side of that with her character in Ghostbusters, and Jennifer Connelly could do it too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lethal Weapon, did you all like the TV show? I tried to get into it.
I love
but
the first season and the first episode of the second season, and then it went I don't know where. But the first season was good.
Yeah, I liked it.
And I remember the first season was good. Some episodes better than others, but the first episode of the second season, I'm thinking they are going all in with this episode. And then after the first episode of the second season, it's like they went to shit. No stops. I don't know why. You know what?
Just Plain Steve became a member of the channel. Well, thanks,
Can
Just
I
Plain Steve.
give an opinion about another Richard Donner movie?
Of course.
I saw Radio Flyer for the first time when I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
And I was a little kid. It was 92, all right? So I was a little kid. And it was the first time that I'm watching a movie. And please, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong about the plot, all right? It's the first movie that I'm watching 2 kids that are being beat up by a foster father. That's a hard subject. That's not a kid's movie,
No.
right? And I'm watching this movie, being a young kid, with 12 years old. I was a kid, in my mind at least. And I'm watching this movie, and I'm like glued to the screen. It's not like that, oh, I can't watch this. Let's watch Goodies. No, I'm glued to the screen, and I'm watching this movie. And as the movie progresses, they are in this fantasy of making a plane out of scraps and shit like that. And I'm thinking about, this is a hard drama fantasy movie. But what really surprised me is that they actually pulled it off. I loved about that in the movie, that the little kid, the little Jurassic Park
Joseph
kid,
Mazzello. Yeah.
Joseph Mazzello, actually goes away, and Frodo stays, and that's what's okay. But the thing is that it was amazing for me that it was such a hard movie with this foster parent that beats them up all the time, especially the little kid because he was weaker. And then they are making this fantastic shit that I'm all around the movie. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, it's gonna finish like they are going to foster care or whatever. No, he's actually go flying. That was amazing. And then
Yeah.
Tom Hanks. Hey, Tom Hanks. That was a surprise.
No,
I love that
agree.
movie.
I do too.
That was a hard drama, and I love that movie.
I did too. Have you seen that, Mike? Radio Flyer?
Radio Flyer, I just remember him chasing the little kid, and then the plane going over his head, and I just remember Elijah Wood helping him out.
Yeah.
That's kind of the end of that.
It's funny. I haven't seen that in a long time. I want to see that again. It makes I'd get that movie on
When I was a
Blu-ray.
kid, I watched that movie like 5 or 6 times when I was a kid, and then I never revisited. But I remember that it was such a great pleasure about the ending, that he got away so fantastically. It was like a Spielberg movie, you know what I mean? The end,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up the show. Do you have some final thoughts, Mike? Do you have any final thoughts on Richard Donner's work and how you've lived with it your whole life now?
I mean, when I was younger, I didn't realize Richard Donner's work was Richard Donner's work a lot of times.
Right. Sure.
But a lot of the movies were, like you said, Superman 2, Goonies, loved it. Just, and I did love Conspiracy Theory, by the way.
Yeah. Which gets better. It gets better as the years tick by.
But it's a shame he died, and
he had a good
He
life.
was 91.
Yeah, he left a huge rich. He had a huge rich life. He was very successful. He produced a lot of great movies. He directed a lot of great movies, and he directed a lot of classic television. Man, and if you're going to go at 91, hey, after that life and that kind of work, You can't go wrong there.
I have a few thoughts about this. His filmography. 3 movies that I want to just very quickly. All right. The first one, even though I love Maverick, but I don't want to talk about that one because you already talked enough about that one. I love Assassins. I'm aware that the third act is underwhelming. I'm aware of that, but I enjoy so much the progression of the first and the second act of Assassins. And you need to understand, Rob, that in '95, me being a 15-year-old Argentinian, I'm watching a Latino guy next to Sylvester Stallone in his prime.
Right.
And you're watching Antonio Banderas having such a ball doing this movie. Now, you're watching, enjoying every second of that movie. Now, for Sylvester Stallone, probably it was just another movie. That's fine. Even though he's a very big friend of Antonio Banderas, they make a lot of movies together. But the thing is that when you're watching as a Latin American guy, you're watching a Spanish-speaking actor who doesn't know how to speak English, at least at that time, Antonio Banderas, and you're watching having such a great time being in an action 90s movie with Sylvester Stallone. That's what I go back to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go back to that, the first act and the second act. The third act, it was so underwhelming, but that's fine. I got my Latino action Sylvester Stallone movie. And after that, I love 60 Blocks because I missed Bruce Willis, the real Bruce Willis. I miss Bruce Willis so much because in the last M. Night Shyamalan movie, the movie wasn't great, but that was the last movie, and it was 2 years ago. That was the last movie that you were watching his eyes, and okay, he cares. It was a bad movie. It wasn't a great movie, but he cared in that one.
Yeah.
Then the Ryan Johnson about time traveling before that one. Maybe Moonrise Kingdom. I don't remember the other name about the other movie.
Looper.
And 16 Blocks. Right. And 16 Blocks.
Looper.
You're watching 16 Blocks. You're watching him. All right, he cares. And that's not like an amazing movie, but it's a good enough movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all my thoughts.
Well, thank you guys. I want to thank everybody for coming on. It was great. I thought it was important to do a little, Richard Donner remembrance. I mean, he was somebody I actually knew and interacted with in my early part of my working in the entertainment business in my early 20s, and he always loomed large and both as a human being and as a director. And growing up with, I mean, you can't not love Superman and The Omen and watch Inside Moves. It's a very different movie, but please watch it because it's.
And I've never watched Conspiracy Theory. I need to watch that movie.
It's a fun movie too.
I have never watched that movie.
It's a fun movie.
I don't know why. I will.
Yes, Mike.
I'm glad you still have a midnight show.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah.
Well, mysteriously deleted though.
No, I brought it back. It's just we were just a little drunk and got a little ornery. Yeah, you can see half of that show.
And poor, I forget who you had on. The poor guy who was like going, "Oh God, I don't want to say a word."
Darren Scott. Yeah, we've all been friends for years and years and years, so it was good. But anyway, yes, we'll still be doing midnight shows. But I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Mike, and thank everybody else for coming on. I'm sure I'll see you guys around soon. It's good
one last thing, Rob. The movie, Mobius is on its way. Yeah,
I thank you for that. I can't wait. I can't wait to put that in my collection.
I don't know if you got the email. I already told you.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's a copy of a DVD. I don't know if it's worthy of your collection, but you'll get to watch the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have it. I just want to have it. I'm really excited. It's no Wild Tales.
No. Tango Shalom, by the way.
What's
and
that?
Next,
I said I can't wait to watch Tango Shalom.
Yeah,
That will be
Tango
next
Shalom
week.
will be in theaters on August 27th.
I'm really curious.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
I
I'm
don't.
curious.
definitely going to the movie theaters for that one.
And then it's going to Buenos Aires too, to the film festival there, so you can see it. There.
Do you have a date for that festival of Buenos Aires?
I don't have a date yet. I don't
Not
know when.
yet.
I don't know
But
when that
maybe
is.
if it's going to theaters, maybe we'll come.
I don't think it's going to go to theaters.
No,
foreign.
because it's going to be a limited release.
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be in North America first because I'll know more. They started selling it in Cannes today, so we'll see what I'm sure I'm going to hear from them tomorrow. because
you know I'm not into musicals, but I've been listening to you talking so much about that movie that I need to watch it.
Oh yeah, well it's look, it's a very low budget labor of love movie.
It doesn't matter the low budget. I hope I will be entertained. I think.
Yeah, I mean I'm just happy to have it out there. So, but thank you guys for that, and thanks for being here. I very much appreciate it, and thanks for offering up some thoughts on Mr. Richard Donner. So I want to thank you guys for being on the show. Always good to see you both, and I will see you around. I always love having people come. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls from across these, a Richard Donner reference, the 28 known galaxies. Thank you for coming to Midnighter episode 23. I want to thank my moderating staff. Simon Gilmore is here. Bunyan Snipe is here. Thank you, boys. The Twin Flicks are here, or at least one of the Twin Flicks is here. And I want to thank you for moderating tonight's chat. What a fine chat it was. I will be back on the John Campea show after this holiday weekend craziness is over. I'll be back on the John Campea show tomorrow. I'll be back on Robservations tomorrow, and probably be back with another Midnighter tomorrow night. So look out for those things. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, Godspeed, Richard Donner. I don't know what's out there, but I'm sure wherever it is, you are having a hell of a time tonight. And thank you for all the work. And on that note, I would say to all of us, have a better night and a better day and a better afternoon, too.